Okay, hello everyone. This is Victor Momo from Excel Moments, and it's been a moment, but I'm back. So in this video, I want to talk about text manipulation, with special focus on text before and text after, which means I may be using some other functions, but yeah, the emphasis will be on text before and text after. I already did a video on text split, so I thought to do one on text before and text after. More importantly, because there have been some updates to the arguments of the functions. I don't remember what the old one looks like, but well, this is what it is right now. So I'm just going to walk you through with a couple of examples. Should be a nice ride. So let's get into it. So for all intents and purposes, text before and text after have similar arguments. So if you see text before here, you could take it as, text after. And I think the functions have been named explicitly enough. So text before would extract text before a delimiter. Text after will extract text after a delimiter. I think the concepts of delimiters are not new to us from text split or text to columns. Okay, so text before, let's just walk through the arguments. The text, that's the text you want to split, right? And that's required. The delimiter is what you're splitting by, maybe a space most times. That's also required. The rest are optional. So the next thing is the instance number. So is it the text before the first space, the text before the second space, the third space, if a space is the delimiter? Okay, so the instance number can run with positive numbers and also with negative numbers. So first instance is 1, second instance is 2 and 3. It works in the reverse too. If you say -1, that's like the first instance from the end, okay, or the last instance essentially. -2 is the last but 1, -3 is the last but 2. You kind of see it when we get into it. The match mode just determines whether you are doing a case sensitive or case insensitive split. Okay, are you taking the text before and text after, making sure that you're minding the case or not? The default is to do a case sensitive, extraction, I would say. Yeah, but you just know that you have the argument. Then you have match end. This is an interesting one that an example will clarify. But this just assumes that the text you are splitting ends, with the delimiter. Okay, the if not found, I think that speaks for itself. If you don't have as in anything returned, what do you want? Do you want to see NA, or you have a special text that you want to display? So let's get into a few things here. So simple, we have this text here. Excel is an excellent software. You already know what my delimiter would be, space, right? So I want to split this by space. Okay, so I can start up by doing text before. I want to see text before. This is my text. My delimiter is a space. If I say text before the first space, this is the first space here. It's going to give me Excel. Before the second space is going to give me Excel is. Before the third space is going to be Excel is and so on, right? Okay, so I could decide to do instance number and type 1, 2, 3, but I could just use the sequence function, so I get everything all at once. So I could do sequence and do 4. So meaning that give me before the first, the second, the third, the fourth. Okay, let's leave the other arguments for now. So do you see that? So Excel, that's just before the first space. Excel is before the next, and so on. Okay, so that's really how it works. I just decided to do everything at once. So you could also have done it with the negative numbers, and don't forget what I said. -1 would be here, -2 will be here, -3, -4. So I could adjust this and say, instead of starting at 1 that I started on, I could start at -4, meaning -4, -3, -2, -1. It's still going to give me the same thing. I know it feels like, well, what exactly is this guy doing? But just know that 1 is first from the left, -1 is the first from the right. You can get it really mixed up and messed up sometimes, but well, maybe let's just go in one direction first, positively, right? Okay, so, but that's how it works. It extracts the text before, that delimiter, and you can tell it the instance. The same way, for the text after. Okay, so now let's look at the ignore case, which is called the match mode right here. So if you look at this text string here, you can see that I have 2 profs there. There's prof in professional and there's prof as in professor. Okay, so if I do say text before, right, and let's say this is my text. Okay, I may just put $1 before the 8 just because I'm going to use it somewhere down. And then I split it. Now I want to split it by, let's say, prof using the capital P. Note that. Let's see what it does. That's all I want to do. Okay. So it split it here, right? It returned everything before the capital PROF. A professional writer, like, that's everything before this capital P. Okay. Now, because the default is, for it to just use the case as is. So now let's copy this formula down, right? And here, instead of using the capital P, let's use the small p. Now, if you use the small p, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to give you this one here, right? But let me still leave it as capital P, and then let me use the argument to say it should ignore the case. So I'm going to skip the instance number. Now I'm on the match mode. Match mode, if I do 1 here, is going to be case insensitive, meaning that it doesn't matter whether I use a capital P or a small p. Prof is prof. So see what happens here now. So you see what has happened. It's seen this PROF in professional as the first prof, and it gives me the text before, which obviously will be the A and the space. Of course, you can't see the space now, but it's there. Whereas here, it just did a regular case sensitive search, and it returned everything before this PROF. So that's kind of how the match mode works, whether you want to take the case as is or you want to tweak it. So let's talk about the match end, right? This is where you either say that, okay, fine, it kind of ends with a wildcard and the delimiter is essentially part of the string or not. So let's look at this simple example, right? The boy is good. How many spaces do we have here? I can see 1 here, 2, and 3, right? So it means that I can say before the first space it will be D, before the second space the boy, before the third is, before the fourth, before the third the boy is, and that will be it. Okay, so but let's see what happens. I'm going to use the match end here. So let's do text split. Sorry, text before. Where's my brain on text split? So let's say text. Let's lock it at the B there. Okay, the delimiter, let's use a space. Okay, the instance number, I want us to use this as the instance number, right? We also need that locked there. Now, match mode, I'm not doing anything about case sensitive. So match end. Now you can see 0 is don't match to end, 1 is match to end. Okay, so 1 means here that we are assuming that this text ends with a space. It doesn't end with a space, right? But when you do match end, that's the assumption it makes. So I'm going to use this 0 and 1 to represent don't match to end and match to end. So I'm going to select this, and obviously I'm going to lock this right that way. Okay, so that's pretty much, I think, it. Yeah, I could actually have even used the spill operator, but let's leave it at that. Okay, so take this down. Let's see the difference. Okay, so now see what happens. Okay, because we have actually, there's a first space here, there's a second space, there's a third space. So we have only 3 spaces there. So that's why you can see that here it has the boy is. The fourth one, obviously, it can't find it. But when you use the match mode as a match end rather, and use 1, you are saying that this string is not like say the boy is good. It's more like saying the boy is good and with a space at the end. Okay, so it takes the delimiter as being part of the text string, that the text ends with that delimiter. And you can see the difference. The difference you would see is when you use an instance of 4. Here, it doesn't return anything. Here, it actually sees it as if there's a space after good and it returns the boy is good. Okay, I hope I kind of explained that well enough. Okay, so I think we are done with the complex part. Let's get into the simple ones. Right, so just a simple example here, which is something we do a lot, splitting, into first name, last name. Now, this is an interesting one. The instance number is what really helps here. So let's do the first one. If you want to do the first name is obviously the text before the first space, right? The text before the first space is, your first name. So let's just do text before, right? And then you select the text. The good thing about this is that you could actually even select everything, right? In some sense. Okay, and then delimiter, we do what? Space, and we say instance number, we say 1. Okay, so that's give me the text before the first space. Right, so that's everybody. Okay, now the last name is the tricky one. Somebody would say, oh, some people have, name, first name, last name, and the middle name. So do you take your instance to be 2 or do you take it to be 1? How do you go about this? Right? So this is where it kind of gets a little tricky. For this one now, for the last name, we should be doing like a text after. Let me give you a simple example here. I should just say the text after the space here, this space, give me Johnson, and that's fine. But the point is that if you do that here, it's going to give you Dapidran rather than giving you Pakwa. Okay, so but the good thing is that you have the instance number of -1, where -1 says that give me the last one, like the rightmost text, right? So instead of trying to count the instance from the left, in this instance it's easier to just count it from the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do text after and say this is my text. I'm going to split. Okay, let me select everything like I did before. Okay, so then I split with a space. Then my instance number, now I'm going to do -1. So -1 just says more or less like you're taking the rightmost space. This is the rightmost space. Everything after it will give you, the last name. Okay, so you kind of see that. So here is Pakwao, here is Johnson, so it works for the 2 names and the 3 names. Now this is an interesting one. I did something like this with the text split, and Joe McDade, I hope I pronounced that correctly, as in shared something in the I think in the comment section, yes, which was really cool. So he said, oh, okay, you could have done it this way. So let me show you what he suggested, which is really nice. So here, for example, if you do like text split, okay, and you split this by a space, right? Okay, so now those are the 3 names. So you can then use the choose calls function. So the choose calls just allows you to choose which columns. Notice that it actually splits it into 3 columns. Okay, so choose calls. Now the question is, what columns do I need? I know I need the first column because the first column is obviously the first name. So I have curly brackets, I say 1. Then I want the last name too. The last name is going to be -1. Okay, so it's more like saying pick 1 and pick -1, meaning pick the first and pick the last. Okay, so and then you close the bracket and you kind of see you have Manny and Pakwao, and then you can take this down. So, well, thanks Joe for that. Next example, file names. Okay, so you want to get the workbook name, right? Typically we use the cell function. Okay, so I'll do something like this, cell, and then I pick file name, right? Okay, so that gives me everything, but it includes the sheet name, right? So you can see the sheet name at the end. The sheet name here is file names, and then this is the name of the full name of the what's it called? The full name of the workbook. So it depends on what I want. Whether I want everything, including what's it called, the part or not. So let's see if we were to kind of tweak this a little. How do we get the file name? So if we want to get the file name, which is everything within this curly bracket, so what do we do? Let's look at that. So let me see that again. Okay, so we have a square bracket here and a square bracket here. Okay, so what I could do is I could split by a square bracket here. I pick everything after that, right? And that's this. Then I split by a closing square bracket and pick everything before. Okay, so follow me here. So text after, right? This is my text after. Here I'm going to split by as in an opening square bracket. Okay, the instance here would be 1, and that's fine for me, right? So you kind of see everything, right? You pick everything after the opening square bracket, which is this. Then now I'm going to split it by the closing square bracket, and I'm going to pick everything before that. So I'm going to do text before. So I do text before, right? And now I'm going to split by closing bracket, and then, well, it's obviously going to pick the first one. That's fine. Okay, and so that's the name of the file. Okay, so that's that pretty much. If I wanted to pick the sheet name, I think this one is easier, the name of the sheet. Don't forget how we kind of started, right? File name, right? So in this one, I just need to pick the text just after that square bracket, that's all. So that one should be easy. So I do text after, and then I say pick everything after, sorry, in my double quotes, right? Okay, right, and that's it. You could have used text split for it too, right? But if you use text split, you probably need to use the choose columns. So what I mean is that you're kind of doing text split, and you split, cell with the file name here. Okay, so you split that based on, square brackets. Okay, so now it's going to give you both of them, right? Then you can then now say, yeah, for this one, I could use, index and pick 2, or I could use choose calls, which is choose columns, and then I'll say pick -1, which is the rightmost thing, which I know is what I want. Okay, so anyhow, you could also have used it if you had a list of all the sheets in this workbook. That's one thing, we get to do a lot using the Excel 4 macro functions. Let me just create something. So let me go to name manager, Control F3. So I do new, and then let me just call this sheet list, which is a list of sheet names in my workbook. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to do get.workbook. Most of us are familiar with this, but don't bother. Once I create this in here and I use sheet lists in the worksheet, I will get a list that looks like what I want. Somebody's like, oh, Victor, add a transpose there. I know that, but don't worry. Let's see what comes out. So this is sheet list. Doesn't look like what it should look like. So, well, let me just put the transpose so that you kind of then see what's going on. So you can see that these are all the sheets in the workbook, right? You can look at all the names: introduction, ignore case, match, end, first, last name. So what if I wanted to get just the, sheet names? I need to extract everything after, the square brackets, the closing square brackets. So I'm going to use TextAfter. So TextAfter, and then I say split by what? Square brackets. Now in this case, I know if I split by square brackets, I will have the name of the workbook on the left. That's 1. And I will have, the name of the sheet on the right, which is column 2. So I could use column 2, I could use -1, more or less like the rightmost one. Any one. My brain kind of works with either one right now. Okay, and now you have, as in, a list of sheets. I used to be able to do this using search, mid and all that, but it looks like it's kind of easy and cooler using TextAfter and TextBefore. Okay, so next one. This is just an interesting one that just adds in, like a sort. So somebody was like, oh, okay, I want to sort these names, but sort them by the last name, not sort them by the first name. Okay, so sort by the last name. So how do we do that? We need to kind of have, the last names rather as an array, and then we kind of sort by that. So how do we get the last names? Again, this looks like one that you should be able to do with text split, but you kind of run into for me, like the array of array problems. So kind of prefer to use, like the text before, text after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do text after. I'm going to pick everything here, right? I could just do that. And I split by a space, right? If I do, in this case, -1, that will give me, of course, the surname. So I could do 2. Anyone is the same, all right? just kind of get used to it. If you say 2, it means you're saying the second instance because it's name and surname compulsorily. But it can get messed up if there are 3 names there. So you could want to use -1 just because of that, okay? So these are the surnames. This is really what you want to sort by, right? So now you're sorting these full names by this. Okay, so I'm just going to put my sort by. So I'm going to say sort by. And what am I sorting? This is what I'm sorting, right? So those are the names I'm sorting. Okay, and I'm sorting them by this here is their surnames. Okay, right? And in what direction do I want to sort? As in, let's say I want to sort ascending, so it's kind of easy to see what's going on, right? So you can see that it's sorted down by the surnames. The surnames are B, Bailey, Bolding, Bold, C, E, F. So it's not sorted by first names, sorted by last names. But I just used, a text after in there to help me to get what I want. Next example, is this the last one? Oh, no, it's not. Wow. As it looks like I have too many examples. Okay, well, you can always skip to the one that you find interesting. So this is going to be an interesting one. It was just me trying to, push Excel to its limits, because I'm sure this is very easy in Power Query, just creating like a splitting based on a transition between lower and uppercase. But I was just thinking to myself, oh, can I do something similar, like a pseudo, Power Query thingy here? So here, what's happened is that we don't have a space, right? So all we know is that the surname starts with like, a capital letter. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if I do text before the caps, of course, there's a capital U here. So text before this will not give me anything. But of course, text before this B here will give me using. So if I use like text before, I can pick the second one. I could do text before, pick the second, or pick -1. That should give me, the first names of everybody. Once I have the first names, yeah, I can do something else to get the last name. So that's my thought. But now I don't know if it's going to be B, if it's going to be C, if it's going to be, the surname starts with different alphabets. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to do something interesting. I'm just going to try to pick, all the characters. I know it's somewhere between A to Z, and I'm assuming here now, English names alone. So that if you have what's it called, from character 65 plus 26, would give you your A, B, C, D, E, like capitals. This is what I mean. So let me show you what I'm going to do. So if I do cha, or some will say ka, anyone, and you do sequence, okay? So I know there are 26 alphabets. and I know that character 65 is my capital A. So I just know that start from 65, 26 alphabets will give me A to Z, something like that, right? Okay, so that's A to Z. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use in here. So I'm going to take this because I know it's going to be something between A to Z. So I'm going to say, watch this, text before. I pick this text. I just probably pick everything. I hope I don't run into the array of array problems. Okay. Let me see. If I do, well, I'll record this part again. So I'll do this, and then my delimiter will be all that. So that's my delimiter, right? So I know it's going to try to look for some of them. It may see an A, may see a B, may see a C, just to make sure that I have all of them covered. Okay, and then my instance number now, because I know that if you say text before the first capital, the name starts with a caps, there's really nothing. I may just use -1 so that it gives me, the last one, right? Or I could use 2, but I could use -1 so it knows that, it's starting from kind of the end. So let's see -1. Okay, so excellent. So that gives me, all the names. I could just take this out, right? Sorry, here. So that gives me all the first names. So once I have all the first names, well, for this example, it's simple. I could just use the substitute function. So I can say substitute in this text. Anywhere you see this guy, do I do everything all at once? Let me do everything at once. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to finish it up once and for all. So, okay, just like do this whole thing, right? Then the old text will be this whole guys. The new text will be nothing, right? More or less just saying that if you look at this, replace Usain with nothing. If you replace Usain with nothing, you're left with both. Good. So, kind of. Don't ask me to do it with 3 names. That's it. Okay, so last one. Oh, I already had the answers here. Okay, so let's just take it out. All right, so let's see if I can do this one. So what I'm just trying to do from this is just to get the weight and the density. Okay, so the key here is you don't have the word weight, right? So but you have, pounds. Now you have to be careful because somebody may want to do LBS, right? But you can see that if it's 1 pound, it's LB. So LB probably will be your delimiter. So what I'm going to do is I want to try and get this 23, get this 5, get this 4, get this 1. Okay, so what I could do is, first of all, I can start with, text before. So I may just build it up so we can all see it. If you do text before LB, it will pick everything here, including the 23. Then you can just do text after the last space, and that should give you the number. So let's start. So let's do text before. Let me do it one after the other so you can really see what's going on. I've just dumped, the 4 of them into one, but let's take it one at a time. So text before, right? And then the delimiter in this case, I'm going to use LB. I'm not using LBS because I could have a pound LB instead of pounds, right? Okay, I'm not putting an instance here. It's going to give me what I want. Okay, let's expand this. Okay, so metallic iron 23. So you see that's everything before LBS. So now I know I need the 23. So the 23 is after the last space. Okay, so I'm going to split by space and then pick -1. -1 will help me pick from the right. Okay, because why you need that is that you don't want to be counting from the left because it could be in different places, right? It may not be exactly in the same place. I could add some other things here and, push this further down. But you know that, okay, once you split it by the pound, it is the last thing there, right? So we're just going to do text here now. So I'm going to wrap this with a text after. Okay, and then say text after a space. So put a space as my delimiter. Then my instance number is -1, meaning like the last thing. Okay, so now you have your 23, which obviously is text, not number. So, and if you need it as number, do something like that. Sorry, I think I already centralized it, so that's why you don't know whether it's text or number. Okay, so and that's everything. So you have your 23, 5, 4, and 1. Good. What if this was like a decimal thingy? Maybe say 4.3. Okay, that also works. Okay, fine, good. So density, let's see this one. This one should be easy. We kind of split, of course, take every text before maybe the gram per cm cube. Yeah, then that's it, right? Or we could even just do text after the last space. There are many ways to doing it. So I could do text after, right? I split by a space. Okay, if I split by a space, I need the last most instance. So I need everything after this last space, which will be obviously this, right? So I'm going to do -1. So watch this one. Okay, So you see what it gives me. It gives me the 1.5 gram per cm cube. At this point, you're pretty much done. You could decide to substitute gram per cm cube with nothing, but if you just want to use text before, just because we are playing with those two functions, I could just say text before cube, something like that, right? Gram per cm is enough for me, but I could just do gram per cm cube. Okay, and I have my 1.5. I could do times 1 or plus 0 just to make it numbers, and then we're done. Wow, that was quite something. Very intense. I thought it was going to be an easy ride. It wasn't as easy as I thought, but I hope you find it as much fun as I found it and still find it. These functions are new and still evolving. I'm sure in the coming days we will do some more things, you know, maybe using some of the other arguments, but I just thought to really just play around with the functions here and, you know, just give you like some interesting flavor around them. I hope you love this video. Please hit the like button. Thanks for all of you, thanks to rather all of you who have subscribed. So please, if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe to the channel. You could also follow me on Twitter at VicMoExcel. For now, I'm out.